you have Cal, Sal, and SPL.
Okay.
What has confused more people?
Sal is?
He's my friend down. He's got the
Yeah,
deli.
yeah, next to Mort.
next to Mort, yeah. Sal is simple active learning.
Got it. Right.
So these are now Maura and Gordon's terminology, and they have two dimensions in their terminology. They're describing two things at the same time. Dimension number one is let's call it the stages dimension, right? Whether it's one stage or two stage, guided missile or cannon,
okay.
right? And that's the continuous versus simple.
Yes.
So
okay.
these three-letter acronyms, let's drop that middle letter and just call it continuous learning and simple learning.
Okay.
Right? If you drop that middle letter, then you've got continuous learning equals TAR 2.0 equals a one-stage process.
Yes.
Simple learning equals TAR 1.0 equals a two-stage process.
Got it.
So catalyst. So now let's. But now Moore and Gordon added a second dimension to their naming convention, and that was the notion of, well, not just how many stages are there, but how are the documents actually selected during the training aspect of that stage, right? Because the two stages are training and review. One is training followed by review. One is training and review together. But how does the selection of the documents for training happen?
Important.
Yeah, very important. And where more of the industry has gotten confused, they shouldn't have, because to me it's completely clear when
Too late. Sorry, Dr. Pickens. We all got confused a long time ago. But we're going to fix that today. We're going to get it straightened out with our visit with you. Folks, if we have not yet had a chance to meet, my name is Chad Roberts with eDiscovery Co-Counsel. We're a law firm that helps plaintiffs' lawyers with electronic discovery in complex litigation. That was Dr. Jeremy Pickens, a leading data scientist and a developer of platforms and AI tools used in electronic discovery document review. And more importantly, Dr. Pickens was right at a hinge point of these technologies when the earlier technologies and workflows, just generically called TAR 1, really transitioned in the marketplace to a different kind of technology and workflow, generically called TAR 2. Why this matters to you now? If you're a lawyer that came into electronic discovery in the last 10 years, you probably skipped right over TAR 1 and did all of your work in a continuous active learning workflow with TAR 2 technologies and workflows. And if you're thinking about transitioning to generative AI tools for document review and classification, you're going to go back actually to using the TAR 1 workflow. And a lot of people developed a lot of skills with that. And there was a lot learned quite a while ago on how to work those workflows. Today mostly is just about explaining the playing field of what it all means. We're going to have some editorial sidebars in the middle of this discussion to interject some exhibits and things that'll help the discussion move along. So we'll jump right into it. We always start with asking our visitors to tell us a little bit about themselves, how they got started and how they wound up with Dr. Pickens. We only had time to do the bookends of his career, but let's jump right into it. And then as it goes along, we'll have little breaks just to show some diagrams that might help illustrate what Dr. Pickens is describing. Here's our visit with Dr. Pickens.
Started my PhD in computer science back in 1997. So as an undergrad, I'd done a double major in computer science and international relations, which are about as far apart as you can imagine, because I wanted to not lose the humanity the whole point of computer science is to apply it to things to make our lives better. And I couldn't see myself just going down a pure technical route. I wanted to ground it in something. And so international relations gave me a mixture of political science and anthropology and geography and language and just all these interesting world topics that I was thinking about as you do as an undergraduate at the same time that I'm studying all these computer science concepts. So when I went to grad school, I knew I wanted to do something that wasn't purely technical and also not purely social. And the area that I found that I thought combined those two things was the area of information retrieval. So what you would know today as search engines. Academically, scientifically, it's known as information retrieval. By the late 2009, 2010, it became clear that for personal reasons we needed to leave Silicon Valley and move to where my wife's parents were to take care of her parents in their old age. They live in the middle of nowhere, on a farm, and I could not find anyone that would let me work remotely. All of the big tech companies at the time were inventing these collaboration tools, the collaborative meetings, the video calls, the collaborative documents, touting this collaboration, but they wouldn't let their own employees eat their own dog food by living and working remotely and working collaboratively. I did find one company that did, Catalyst. So Tridenic was more than happy to have me work remotely, come into the office a few times a year, not even that often, but I guess he had enough trust and that he allowed that at that time.
He was in Denver, right? Wasn't he in Denver?
He was in Denver, yep. They were based, had a nice office in Lodo, lower downtown Denver, and so I was there once or twice a year, and otherwise on the farm cutting hay and
right. What year starting with Catalyst?
2010, October 2010.
Right on the ground floor.
Yeah. In the text retrieval portion of my early career, I used a lot of Trek test collections.
Yes.
Right. That's how you. So this is our theme today. Our theme today is evaluation. So we're eventually going to get there.
Okay. And because that's I don't know if it's still on the website, but you can find a lot of that Trek material out there.
You can, but Trek was started in 1992, and the initial Trek has what are called tracks.
Yes.
And so different kinds of information seeking, different kinds of information retrieval, and they have data and ground truth relevance judgments for each of those different collections. So somebody might do normal just text search from a document database. Someone might do web search. There was a chemical search track at one point, retrieving similar chemical compounds. That was one of the Trek tracks. And of course, eDiscovery was one of those early tracks as well. I had not participated in that Trek track, in those early eDiscovery tracks.
Yeah.
I had participated in some of the earlier, late 90s, early 2000s, what are called ad hoc retrieval tasks. Where it's just you have a single shot search engine and you're ranking and you're evaluating how well that ranking does compared to other algorithmic techniques. So that was not my gateway drug. But again, where my research career had always been was in this high recall sort of orientation, where I was interested in finding all the documents, and where my research had been was in this collaborative exploratory search, collaborative information retrieval area where teams of people were working together, and there was a computer system mediating between them. So you take those two pieces that, even though I hadn't done the Trek legal track, what is document review, what is discovery production, but a team of lawyers being mediated, coordinated on the back end by an algorithm, and in an attempt to get to high recall. So
nice fit.
it was a perfect fit, and it was a company that let me work remotely, and so I was able to be near my in-laws.
Cool.
My father-in-law just passed away 4 months ago, so it was nice that we had that time with him all these years, and
Yeah.
we were able to be there. And
Yeah. Cool.
So
Catalyst years, what years?
Catalyst years 2010 to 2019. I still was at the same job, but OpenText purchased us in
Yes.
2019,
Yes.
and I stuck there till 2022. So really, 12 years in the same position.
Wow.
Yeah, I was happy doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I didn't pick my head up and look around. I just went straight forward and
No, and a great product. A lot of groundbreaking things. So were you part of the whole, because I know John's a great, people associate the TAR 2.0 branding thing with him, but the whole continuous active learning transition to continuous active learning with the Grossmans and all that stuff. It sounds like you would probably have been at ground zero for all those things.
I was at ground 0.1.
Wow.
So when I joined Catalyst in October of 2010, of course the first thing I did was look around at all the competing technologies and what people were saying and what people were doing, and it didn't make sense to me that they had this two-phase process where they were building up a model and then ranking the entire collection and not doing anything with those additional judgments on that collection. And
It's like they were being wasted.
Yeah, and so I thought, well, let's make use of those. How would you make use of those? And it really was within the first 2 or 3 months, October, November, December, that the idea for what we now know as CAL or TAR 2.0 hit me, and I immediately started pushing for that. Let me go back and say that Maura Grossman and Gordon Cormack, they were doing it before,
Were
right?
they?
So
Okay.
so they'd been doing it since the 2009, 2008 maybe, and even Gordon had some work from the early 2000s where you can conceivably you saw the seeds. He was doing the similar sort of pattern that you might call it CAL today. So I'm not going to claim to have invented it. At most, so let me make sure that I credit Maura and Gordon that with being there first, absolutely. Yeah. But let me also humbly take at least some sort of unknowing co-ideation, if we can call it
For building
that.
it and executing.
And conceptualizing what it was and what it should be, and then testing to see whether or not it actually did the job better than some of these other methods.
Yeah.
And so that's where the Trek background and the heavy evaluation mindset comes in. It's one thing to put something out there that sounds plausible, that tells a good story, but it's another thing to actually go and test it and know.
Make it operational.
There's operational in the sense of deployed software with hardened code that's not going to break, and there's optional in the sense of the concepts are robust and will work in a variety of circumstances and are the right thing to do.
Wow.
This is just let me go off on a quick side jaunt.
We're all about that here.
Excellent. So John coined. Actually, let me get into the terminology later.
Okay.
Maura published a paper in 2014 at SIG-IR, which is the top information retrieval conference. Right. We're back to information retrieval.
Out in California?
At that time, that year, it was held at the Gold Coast in Australia, I think.
Oh,
but it moves all around the world.
I gotcha. Okay.
Right, Paris, Tokyo, Chicago. It's a different place every year. She and Gord published a paper back then that is known as the CAL paper, right? It's where CAL it got its name, and she did her own series of evaluations showing consistently that it beat which her terminology, SAL and SPL,
Right.
or what I would call TAR1,
Yes.
that it consistently beat that. And that paper was interesting for two reasons, and we tend to forget the second reason. It's primarily remembered as like the Cal paper, right?
Yes.
But again, it also tested SAL and SPL. What are SAL and SPL? SAL, simple active learning. SPL, simple passive learning.
And people both put those in like TAR 1, but I wouldn't mind somebody telling me why they're both in TAR 1, right? Because I would have thought semantically simple active learning is more of a TAR 2-ish kind of concept. You follow me? So it's always been confusing to me.
I think it's been confusing to everyone. Goodness, there's a big wibbly ball of interconnections. I'm not sure where to start. So
Okay.
I'm just going to start talking.
Okay.
And you tell me as I loop back around and try to tell the whole story.
Okay.
Okay, so we're bookmarking the evaluation of SAL and SPL.
Deal.
We're coming to the
I will
terminology.
bring us back to that.
Okay. A lot of these are marketing terms, right? And so you have to keep that in mind. There is no scientific definition for one thing being the proper way and one thing being the other. David Lewis, who you've interviewed on this show before,
Yes.
I think he got tired of the marketing at some point, and by about 2020, he decided to go with terminology that was just flat descriptive. And so I'm going to borrow from him and use that terminology because I think that will help explain it. He called them 2-stage and 1-stage.
Okay.
The notion of 2-stage is stage 1, you build up an extrapolation engine. What do I mean by an extrapolation engine? You might say a machine learning model. You might say a rules-based expert system, as there was a vendor in the space that used expert systems at one point. One that was learned by a machine, another that was written by humans, but you have some sort of extrapolation engine that is created.
Okay.
And the way you create that extrapolation engine is you look at a bunch of documents in your collection, you test the predictions from your engine against those documents, you see if it's working well, you adjust your engine, you adjust the rules, you adjust the weights, the parameters of that engine. If it's not working well, you pick more documents to learn from to help you understand how you might want to adjust it in the future. That whole process, right? That's stage 1.
Okay.
And then you do the best that you can, and you create this extrapolation engine, and then in stage 2, you run it across the collection. You let it go.
All right.
Gordon Cormack had a great analogy for this as well that he used to share. He talked about it as the cannonball. Your Napoleon's troops are coming at you, and you've got your cannon lined up, and you want to make sure you don't get overrun. And so you measure out. You see how far away they are. You get your what are they called?
All dialed in.
All dialed in. You measure out the amount of powder. You know how much explosiveness is per cup of powder, and you put that in the cannon. You tamp it down. You look at how fast they're moving. You look at the angle of the wind. Test and then with all your best guesses, you line it all up. You know how long your fuse is, how long it's going to take to go before it. Set the fuse, and boom. You fire your shot, and you hope you hit as many as possible. Kind of a macabre example.
Yes.
I apologize, but you get it.
I get it.
And that's 2-stage TAR, right? Stage 1 is lining up your cannonball shot. Stage 2 is firing and hitting what you hit. Once you hit, right? Once you've extrapolated and given predictions for all the documents in the collection, you can do a number of things with that. You can still review the entire collection in prioritized order, right? People were nervous about these extrapolation engines. They're nervous about tar. They didn't understand how they worked, so they wanted to review everything anyway. But you get all the good stuff up front, right?
least,
so that
right.
was the story that we've heard
Efficiency.
for years.
Right.
Efficiency, or at least you can do your productions quicker, or with the same, because you have now a static ranking, you can review up to cutoff, right? So you can still review in a priority order, but you don't have to review every single document in the collection.
Yes.
Right, so that's option number 2. Or option number 3 is to do a quick priv screen, make sure you're not producing anything privileged, and then move the entire set of documents above the cutoff to stage 2 review, or produce without looking at it if you're so inclined, right? In other words, the bypass first level review that you hear lately in Gen AI circles is actually a 2-stage TAR concept, right? It's depending on how you want it. You have a static ranking now, and it's just what you want to do with that. You can bypass first review that way, or you can review them all, or you can review up to a cutoff, or whatever you want to do. Let's contrast that with a 1-stage review. A 1-stage review is where training is review and review is training. There's no difference. Every document reviewed feeds into your extrapolation engine to make the next document reviewed a better document, to feed back into your extrapolation engine, to make the next document reviewed be a better document, to feed back into your extrapolation engine, and so on and so on. Yeah, well, it's that there's no discrimination between the 2 tasks.
Right.
2-stage is training in stage 1, followed by review in stage 2.
Yeah.
1-stage is training and reviews mixed together.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to why SPL and S.
Almost there. Almost
Okay.
there. I want to
Yes.
give credit to Gord one more
I
time
get it.
for one more analogy. So we had the cannonball analogy.
Yes.
So stage 1, set up the cannonball, measure all the things, tamp it out. That's your training. Stage 2, fire.
Right.
The 1-stage, and I loved Gord's analogy here. The 1-stage it's a guided missile, right? Generally, you want to start it off by aiming in the right direction, right? You don't want to aim south if the troops are north.
But it gets mid-course guidance.
But you get mid-course guidance. The wind can change directions as you're going. The troops can
Start running
they start
away
running in the
yeah.
way. They go
Right.
different. Who knows? A sun flare comes up. And,
Got it. That's actually a good analogy.
it's a great. I credit him
Yes.
that to him. It's a great one. And so that's really, if you boil it down and remove everything else, it's 2-stage versus 1-stage.
Got it.
Now, what Catalyst, Tridenic, what we called those things, we called the 1-stage. Sorry.
Now I know why you have screwed up the universe. You called 1-stage TAR 2, and you are now guilty forever of doing that.
TAR 2 is 1-stage
TAR
review.
2 is
TAR 1
1-stage.
is 2-stage review. We can credit Dave Lewis for stating it that clearly.
Yes.
We had of course always envisioned it as those.
Right.
And in fact I used to say back in the early 2010s, training is review, review is training. Right.
Right.
It's like the concepts were there. But I like how Dave has phrased it in the stages. So yes, we screwed that up. But here, let me. So here's a little.
I'm glad you're owning that now. That's so
well. So I'm
it's
not
so
going to own
rich.
it. I'm going to throw Tridenic under the bus. And
I know why. Go ahead.
Hi,
he's
John. I hope you're listening.
He's the best marketing dude in the world, and I get it. Keep going.
I'm going to throw him under the bus, but I'm also going to give him credit.
Yes, of course.
Here's where the term came from. And I was talking to Tara Emery, who I think you've also interviewed recently,
Yes.
about this 9 or 10 months ago. And I realized she didn't know this, and I realized that nobody must have known this. Back in the early 2000s, early mid-2000s, there was a concept in the internet world of Web 2.0. Right? Do you remember?
Vaguely.
There was and the idea then was that, so Web 1.0.
Yep.
Web 1.0 was the notion of a static web page. So you just serve it up from a database, you click the link, and it's a static page. You visit the link, the search engine can index it, you search, you get the search, come back, right? But Web 1 is the static web. Web 2.0, and this comes from Silicon Valley, this is not e-discovery. Web 2.0 is the dynamic web. It's where you can enter information into the web and have it change the web page you're on as you're working on it. Now, today it's such an obvious, such a built-in concept because we do our email on the web, we edit our docs on the web, we do our e-discovery on the web. Of course the web is interactive, of course the pages are dynamic, of course they upload without having to refresh the web page.
But it wasn't always like that.
But that wasn't always like that. And Web 2 was the Silicon Valley terminology for making the web dynamic and interactive. And so John wanted to, it's the same notion of two-stage
Yes.
is the notion of static.
Yes.
You iterate for a time being. You know, you move the cannon,
Right.
you aim, you add a little
Right.
more powder, you take some powder. So it's interactive for a short period of time, but then it freezes and it's static, and you fire the cannonball, and where it goes, it goes.
That's what you get.
It's Web 1.0. Web 1.0, TAR 1.0. The other approach, the guided missile, where it's training is review, review is training.
One stage.
It's dynamic, one stage. There is no difference between aiming and firing. You're always aiming, you're always firing.
Yes.
And so that's Web 2.0, TAR 2.0.
I get it. That makes sense. Okay.
So I'm throwing, it's a clever, right? I mean, so that's, and I fought against it. I didn't like it. Like, so all credit to John. I didn't, but he did, and it caught on.
It did.
So,
yes.
So
here we are, still trying to figure it out.
Right, it's so good.
It's so good, it's stuck.
What's that line from the Harry Belafonte song? It was clear as mud and it covered the ground.
Yeah, it did. Interesting. Okay. Now, I was supposed to tell you to put a pin in.
Nope, we're not there yet.
SPL or
SPL. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, we are there. We're not a pin
Okay.
in the evaluation. We have 2 pins.
Gotcha.
You have to go back.
Yes.
SPL. So take the C. You have Cal, Sal, and SPL.
Okay.
What has confused more people?
Sal is.
He's my friend down. He's got the
Yeah,
deli.
I guess- yeah, next to Mort.
next to Mort, yeah. Sal is simple active learning.
Got it. Right.
So these are now Maura and Gordon's terminology, and they have 2 dimensions in their terminology. They're describing 2 things at the same time. Dimension number 1 is let's call it the stages dimension. Right? Whether it's 1 stage or 2 stage, guided missile or cannon.
Okay.
Right? And that's the continuous versus simple.
Yes.
So these 3-letter acronyms, let's drop that middle letter and just call it continuous learning and simple learning.
Okay.
Right? If you drop that middle letter, then you've got continuous learning equals TAR 2.0 equals a 1-stage process.
Yes.
Simple learning equals TAR 1.0 equals a 2-stage process.
Got it.
So catalyst. So now let's. But now Moore and Gordon added a second dimension to their naming convention, and that was the notion of, well, not just how many stages are there, but how are the documents actually selected during the training aspect of that stage, right? Because the 2 stages are training and review. One is training followed by review. One is training and review together. But how does the selection of the documents for training happen?
Important.
Yeah, very important. And where more of the industry has gotten confused, they shouldn't have, because to me it's completely clear when I read the paper. And if you talk to Maura, she'll agree with me. Maura, if you're watching this, I think you do.
Yep.
Call me if I'm getting this wrong. It's not intentional. Is that people think that the relevance selection means continuous, and that the uncertainty selection means simple.
You got to say that one more time, just one more time.
So again, the second dimension of the Grossman-Cormack TAR naming convention is how the documents are selected to be put in front of someone who's doing the training, and or someone who's doing the review when review is training, right? Because that's the training. You can select those documents in a number of methods. You could look at an extrapolation engine. I keep using that terminology because I don't want to say model, because model is so it means so an extrapolation engine is the thing that makes your prediction. You can select them by looking at that extrapolation engine and picking the highest ranked ones, right? The most relevant, the ones that are predicted to be most likely to be relevant. That's one selection mechanism. No, we're throwing away forget everything else about the process. We're just looking at selection again. Pick from the highest. Selection mechanism number 2. Ask the model what it knows that it doesn't know. And have the model tell you, well, if I could get some information, this would help me the most.
Yes.
That is the uncertainty approach, the uncertainty type of algorithm. Number 3, I do want to take. I feel unhumble, but let me take credit for this one anyway. We were the first in the industry back in 2013 to put a diversity algorithm into the process. Yep. And so it's not the one that the machine doesn't know the most. It's the one that the machine knows that you as the human know the least. And it's the most it's the largest pocket of documents that it knows that you know nothing about.
Gotcha.
Not all of those are going to be responsive.
But that's the point.
It gives you the broadest sort of topical understanding of your collection. And that was our diversity algorithm that we introduced in January of 2013. Wow. Right? Half the vendors didn't even have TAR, and we are anyway. That's not all. There's more. If you buy now, you can also get random sampling. That's another selection mechanism. You can do judgmental sampling, which is run some keyword searches, and based on your knowledge of what's in there, pick some documents, run some searches, pick some documents that cover the aspects that you want to find. So I listed at least 5, right? And we could sit here and we could come up with ideas for 10 or 20 more, but there's just a lot of different ways of selecting documents for that training. I haven't said anything about how effective each of those are. I'm just saying that is the second dimension in Moore and Gordon's naming convention.
And what is that name?
So it is the name of the dimension or the name of the techniques?
The name of the dimension first. Is that the simple active?
So we're back to the acronyms CAL, SAL, and SPL. Continuous active learning, simple active learning, and simple passive learning.
Yes.
Now take out the C and the S. Take out the continuous, and take out the simple. Right? Actually, let's leave the learning off as well. Just take that middle initial. You have an active, an A, and a P passive. I don't know that particular dimension has a name. It's the training selection mechanism.
And is it going to be true that everything with an A, whether you're choosing judgmental, whether you're choosing random sampling, whether you're choosing whatever, that's going to make the A, right? In other words, that you're purposefully and intentionally choosing what the next training set is going to be.
So, under their naming convention, they only gave it 2 letters, A and P, active and passive. Under the active means anything that the machine selects, that you use some sort of clever algorithm to select. Passive means anything that the machine doesn't select.
Okay.
So in that terminology, the A in active covers high relevance, it covers uncertainty, and it covers diversity. All three of those are forms of active learning. Under the passive, that covers random sampling and judgmental sampling. Because a random sample, yeah, okay, you use a machine to take it, but it's not a clever algorithm. It's a random sample. There's no algorithmic intelligence behind
Yes.
selecting it in a clever way.
And what's the other passive one?
Judgmental, which means run a keyword query and pick a few docs from the top of the list, or look at your clusters and find some clusters of interest and select a few documents from each cluster and right, all sorts of, so the human going in and picking something. Actually, if I think about the cluster selection, is that active or passive? So you're using a machine to cluster, so that's active-ish, and you're using but the human picking which clusters are most interesting, so that's judgmental, passive. See, it's hard.
Yes,
This is the
I
thing
get it.
about terminology.
Okay,
like,
I'm with you,
and
though.
I want
I'm with you.
terminology is only helpful up to a certain point,
Yep.
but it gives us a
Yes,
rough
a
way
framework.
a framework to understand things. So if I had it my way, I would have called it curl, continuous relevance learning, because it's continuous and you're using mostly relevance to select
Right.
from the top of the list, and I would call it curl instead of cal, and I would have called it SUL, S-U-L, instead of SAL for simple uncertainty learning, because when and this is where we get into evaluation, when you're doing continuous learning, when you've got the guided missile, the most effective way to pick the documents is relevance. But when you're doing simple learning, the cannonball, the most effective way is to choose by uncertainty. And where I've seen people get confused is that they do continuous learning with uncertainty, so you're always only picking the uncertain documents, and you're never getting to the high relevance ones, which makes no sense. But that is continuous active learning, but it's the wrong A, it's the wrong, or they do simple learning, but instead of SUL, simple uncertainty learning, they do simple relevance selection learning, and that doesn't work because you're picking documents from the top of the list, but because you're only picking a few thousand of them, you're biased toward those initial ones that you find, and the continuousness actually gets you past that bias. But when it's not continuous and you're picking from the top of the list, then it's actually worse than and so you have to pair the right training selection mechanism with the right stage train, guided missile versus. And this is where evaluation comes into play, is measuring that and getting a collection of documents that have already been judged, so you know the judgments on them, and then you can run simulations in which you can say, let's follow the protocol where we learn continuously, where we never stop training until we hit our 70, 80, 90% recall, but let's use this form of selection, and then let's run it again with the same exact documents with the same exact starting point and try it with this selection mechanism, and how well does it work?
And you know why this is maybe a dated issue and a dated concept, but it's now relevant again. For example, Intara's wrote a paper about a reference model for a conceptual reference model for Gen AI. And if I took the takeaway of it is that our first generative AI models are actually two-phase, am I right?
Absolutely.
They are more two-phase-ish. We are sort of back again where we are back again with generative AI where we began with machine learning. We don't have that continuous thing. Well, we don't have that TAR 2.0 thing yet in generative AI. But when this was the most recent time I had to cramp my brain over SPL and continuous active learning and continuous passive learning. And so it's relevant.
Actually, you know what continuous passive learning is?
What?
Linear review.
Good old fashioned.
Well, think about it.
Yes.
Passive learning, passive learning where the passive is a random sample.
Yes.
Linear review, you're just going through the documents, any old order at random, and you're doing it continuously until you hit your high recall point. Continuous passive learning is linear review, but we wouldn't call it
that. We'd have to charge more. Cool.
Judge, can you defend? Is this defensible? Is continuous passive learning defensible? I don't know. I've never seen it.
Okay. Anyway, I just wanted, for the folks that have stuck with us this far, it's a plug for why this matters today.
Yes, and let's go there. Let's go there because generative AI, exactly, it is lining up your canon. You are iterating on your prompt, and you're selecting documents from the collection to see how well your prompt is doing on that sample of documents. You're selecting some more documents to maybe train on, to get some knowledge about what's in the collection, to modify your prompt, to kind of match so that it hits everything that's going to be in there. But that at some point, you do this for a couple of hours, couple of days, and then you stop and you light the fuse and fire the trigger. And okay, you can phase the firing of the trigger as well, and run it on 5,000 documents, and then see if that looks good. Run it on 25,000, and then run it on 100,000. But at the end of the day, you're not. I mean, unless something terrible happened, you're just the cannonball is lurching and fits and starts, but you've still fired the cannonball, right? So it is a two-phase process. Not only is it a two-phase process, TAR 1.0, it is currently, as I've seen in the market, and this could change, right? People are working on it, is a simple passive learning form of TAR 1.0, right? If we're using Mora's terminology. Why? Because the way you're picking documents currently to test your prompts, people are either doing random samples or they're doing judgmental samples. They're running some searches and pulling in some documents to pull it in. So Gen AI is not just TAR 1, it's simple passive learning. Now, does that mean it's worse? Not necessarily, right? People, and I think this is what confused people about the TAR 1 and TAR 2. Well, they thought that TAR 2 just meant better because it was version 2, right? And so that's why you saw, I think there were at least 3 different TAR 3.0s and one TAR 4.0. and that doesn't make any sense to me. No offense to my fellow industry mates, but because that's not what 1 and 2 meant. 1 and 2 didn't mean
more advanced, better.
It meant
different workflow.
Different workflow, static versus dynamic. So if you've got static, dynamic, and now you've got TAR 3, static and dynamic already cover everything. So what's TAR 3? And you'll notice also, back to the web, that once the Web 1.0 and Web 2.0 terminology, there were like 17 different Web 3.0s. Everybody was pitching semantic web is where we have concepts instead of, that's Web 3.0. And other people were like, Bitcoin, that's Web 3.0, or crypto, and none of that ever went anywhere. There was no coalescing.
No traction.
Because Web 1 and 2 didn't mean better, it meant static versus dynamic. And once you have those two spaces covered, there's nothing else. Now, again, here's the problem. Just because you are Cal or TAR 2 or TAR whatever or Gen AI doesn't mean it's necessarily better. You have to evaluate it. You could be doing something where you could be using one of the processes in a very clever way that you have some sort of augmentation of uncertainty that is making your TAR 1 better. You could be doing TAR 2 in a worse way. You could, you really want to do that evaluation to measure whether or not something's better than what you're going to do is better than the way you used to do it. And when you do that evaluation, you don't want to compare against linear review, because I will tell you one thing right now: every technology from every vendor from the beginning of e-discovery will beat linear review. That's an endorsement of the entire industry. Like, and some technologies were actually not that good,
and they still
beat linear
Right.
review, right? And so what you want to do is you want to compare it against the next best thing that you already would have otherwise done.
Gotcha.
If you need a scientist to come in and help you and do that comparison, because you're not going to do it yourself, that's okay. Talk to your favorite,
Right.
and get someone and do it. But like, if there's one thing you could say to the industry that I've been saying for 15 years, is go and do that evaluation.
Yeah.
And see what it does, see what happens. Start to develop an intuitive feel for what works and when.
Yes.
I mean, if we had another 4 hours, I could go off on nuance of collection richness and what's the nature of is it a junior attorney or a senior attorney making the judgments, and does that matter? And all sorts of so there are rabbit holes within rabbit holes of ways to make this stuff work. But at the top level, that's what it's about.
And some of that, it struck me that in some years, I think it was every other year, the Trek. For a while, they were doing the Trek Legal Retrieval series, and there was a little bit of that analysis, maybe. Okay, so we're down to one pin. Is that true?
Well, there was a little bit of that in Trek, but that's not exactly
what you're really thinking
because
about.
Trek is not. It's intentionally framed as not a bake-off.
Yes.
And
wasn't supposed to be anyway.
It wasn't, and that's true. And that's not just true for the e-discovery track. That was true for every track.
Yeah.
Trek is there for you to learn. So Trek is not a bake-off. It wasn't about who wins the Trek thing. It's about having the data you need to test the hypotheses to see what does and doesn't work. And by comparing on the same set of data, you get a sense of what kinds of techniques work and what kinds don't. Imagine, so here's what tends to happen in e-discovery. People, they throw out some extrapolation engine algorithm, some new TAR approach or whatever you want to call this thing, right? And they say, well, in our system, it really helps. It's a human in the loop system, right? Because that's the buzzword these days.
Yes.
And we've found that if every time the human judges a document, they stand up out of their seats. This is your contract review team working. After every document judgment, they need to stand up and pat their head and rub their belly while they're turning 360 degrees in a circle, and sit down and then code the next document. And we have determined that this is a fantastic process, and you should follow it. And look, we get these results, high recall, high precision. Isn't this wonderful? And so from that point forward, everyone starts standing up and patting their head and rubbing their bellies and turning in circles and sitting down because they got really good results doing that. And nobody ever asks the question, well, did you try it on the same exact documents without the belly rubbing and head patting? Did you just like judge it and move to the next one? That's scientific thinking. That's evaluation. It's controlling for all variables except for the variable that you're testing, and to see whether or not that variable has an impact. And if you did that, yes, it's true that with the belly rubbing and head patting, you got a great result.
But why?
But why? And it probably wasn't because
yes.
And you know that because you've done the side-by-side comparison.
But now, are you talking about it in the context of a validation-ish thing, or are you talking about it in the context of industry optimizing a tool, right?
Well, certainly all the vendors should be doing this themselves, right? To know what does and doesn't work.
Because this costs money. Right, a little.
A little in the traditional supervised machine learning days, you could do this through simulation. You did not need to get a human reviewer involved. You could automate the process of running different workflows. You could even automate having applied different judgments to the documents. Like, what happens if I do this workflow, but like somebody gets half the documents wrong? You can simulate doing that. You're not discovering any new information. You're not amiss in your production, right? Because you're just running a simulated experiment. In Gen AI, it's a lot harder to do these experiments because you have to have a human sitting there writing this prompt, and you can't just simulate having judged a document. And so it's a lot more expensive to do these comparisons in the Gen AI world than it is in the traditional machine learning world. I did this analysis a couple of months ago. I was trying to think in my decade at Catalyst, how many document predictions had I actually made in simulation, in this scientific evaluation comparison simulation mode. Like, as I'm running all sorts of different options with different algorithms and different feature weightings and different, how many predictions had I made over that decade? And just knowing how I worked, the number of cases I worked on, the rate at which I would come up with new ideas and run them through, like, you run it over the weekend and test 47 different options and come back Monday morning and start to look at your results, like which way worked best. Right. I estimated that I probably made predictions on about 230 billion documents. Wow. In that time. And if those were Gen AI documents, let's even say that the cost came down to a penny a document, right?
Right, a lot of money.
That's still what's 1/100th of 230 right. billion?
Yeah.
2.3 billion.
Something. A lot.
It would have cost me to run those experiments. So we were just never going to have the level of knowledge about these systems. Maybe we don't need to. Maybe a lot of that was overkill. But,
so your soapbox on evaluation is directed to who? Vendors or producing parties? Or both?
It is directed toward everyone. I'm making a lot of friends here in this interview.
Yes, that's good.
Certainly the vendors should be doing this, and the vendors should be publishing those results and actually showing results instead of just hand-waving kind of. But more importantly, I think the users of the technology, which would be the producing party, or it could be the receiving party, right? If they're using it to go through their received productions, that those parties, even if they don't do the mechanics of the comparison themselves, they should be asking the questions of their vendor to do that comparison. So if there is a claim, right, where it's being claimed that the belly rubbing is this amazing new aspect of the human in the loop technology, the producing parties should at least be able to ask, well, can you show me, here's your results with the belly rubbing, show me your results without the belly rubbing. And not against linear review, but against the without. And then let me see how much that really adds to the process. So it's both a supply problem and a demand problem. Those evaluations are not being supplied as much as I think they should. Mm-hmm. Again, and they are not being demanded as much as they should either.
So, but I think this is a question that's going to sound like a statement. We're talking about something different than validation of a particular discrete production
Correct.
thing, right? We're talking about, conceptually evaluating the tool itself as a tool, like in the abstract, right? Do I understand that?
The tool or your workflow or your whatever it is that so you're going to do something, right?
Yes. And before we even pick that tool off the shelf, we ought to have some metrics about what it's good for, what it might be weaker for, and when does it make the best sense to use it? Is that Would that be a fair takeaway?
That would be
the benefits of evaluation that way.
Yes, and why would you not?
Yeah.
Right, you're out there on the golf course, and you've got 200 yards to go. Are you gonna pull out the putter?
I'm with you.
You can still hit the ball with it. It will work.
Because the salesman for the putter took me out to lunch.
Because right.
That's more as often as not. That's why. Yeah.
I mean, you can do that.
So how do we do these things? How do we because the next thing I'm thinking is there going to be some industry standard? Is there some tell me why
that's been tried so many times. There have been attempts at bake-offs, and it's just too political. It's too much. So this is something that I don't have any faith that there will be some sort of global meeting of the minds and the tests. It has to come from the buyer, right?
Wow.
The user and they have to know that on their golf course, right, that they're going to use the putter, they're going to use the iron, whatever it happens to be, or they have to be able to talk with trusted others who themselves have tried using a putter at 200 yards and have the knowledge of what that does, but in an actual comparative way, right? That they've both used the putter at 200 yards and then they've used the iron at 200 yards as well, and tried both. So you can rely on the experiment directly, you can rely on it indirectly, but ultimately there has to be some root actual comparison that's been done, and not just.
So how that there are some industry standards for if I want to measure my little i5 Intel chip versus my i7 Intel chip, they have little
benchmarks.
They have little benchmarks,
yeah.
Right? And I'm if this is a question, it would seem as though I know there's now developing LLMs that are more efficient and less efficient than others. That the efficiency of the LLM, the guts under the hood of the LLM, is there's LLMs and then there's LLMs, so that and there may be benchmarks that way. I could imagine that there could be potentially a benchmark for that, but what I hear and understand you trying to explain and advocate for would also include a component of the workflow that would be involved, and a lot of what other kinds of things are going to be on the list of variables besides the mechanics of the power of the engine itself, the workflow involved. What other? Well, let's add humans. Does it have to be done by a super top senior attorney? Can it be done by a couple of junior associates? Can it be done by a team? Can it be done? So what would be some of the variables that you think would be helpful for people to sort of maybe fiddle around with to do evaluations by? What would be things to hold constant and to change?
Yeah, I'm not ready for this question. I could probably write down a list of about 24 of them. I can't think that quickly off the top of my head.
No, I get it. But at least workflow, the human factors, and the LLM itself would be on that list.
Yes, I would include yes. And what you're comparing the LLM to, right? If there's a non-LLM version that you're comparing, I would add collection richness, right? A very high richness collection is probably, every method's probably going to succeed because documents are very easy to find. Very low richness collection may be a little more difficult. So being able to test one of each. A challenge, and this one's a little tougher, right? Because where do you get the data? But there are some matters that are very straightforward, where literally, like, you can do
One
three
issue.
searches, one issue, and it's very literally spelled out, and you know exactly the words and the people, and, and where there are other issues that are like anywhere fraud has happened. And there are no emails that say, "Hey Tim, let's go to the sports bar and commit some fraud." You know, it's like they don't use the language, and the language is a lot more diffuse.
Yeah.
And so you want to measure not just on the easy, even at the same richness level. You two cases that are both, say, 15% rich in your collection. One might be straightforward and one might be a little more diffuse, and so you want to see, well, does the LLM do better on the diffuse language? Does continuous learning help with diffuseness? Because you're constantly adjusting your trajectory and guiding toward the changing language. Right? Lawyers are very good at taking apart the arguments of opposing, right, when they're in court. Just apply those same critical thinking skills to claims about the technology, and then be the lawyer who asks the right question to be tested. Don't rely on the vendor to ask the questions. You be that question asker yourself. So I think there's a joint responsibility for the vendors to actually do the mechanics of the testing, but for the lawyers to want to test.
Any advice for lawyers like us on how to get our heads around this?
Ask questions.
Okay.
Be curious. I mean, if you're not, care. If you don't care, then you're not going to ask questions, and if you don't ask questions, you won't get answers. So probe it. Push into claims you may hear. The claims, a lot of them by and large will hold up, right? But then you'll have the confidence because you will have seen the evidence and the testing in a way. Some of the claims won't, and then you'll be smarter, and some of the claims will be, yes, but that's a putter and I'm 200 yards away. And you just have to be curious.
Caveat emptor for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Pickens, thanks so much for your time. This was a gift, and it really benefits the people that want to do a deeper dive on this. And I think the greatest takeaway I've learned, I think, has been a little bit of that backfill on what went on underneath all the branding during the years that I got started, and helped me understand it. So thanks so much, and please stay in touch, and we follow you and appreciate your work. What are you working on now? Anything cool?
Oh, I don't want to talk about that yet.
Say no more.
Of course it's cool.
It's cool. Okay. All right. We'll look forward to it, and thanks for your time.
You're welcome. My
So
pleasure.
long. You bet. Bye-bye. Thanks, man. That was fun.
You're welcome.
If I make my flight, it'll be a miracle.
Oh, I'm so sorry for holding you.
I'm not.
Should I?
No, I'm not a bit.